I'm Bill Young, and I approve this message. Hi folks, are you as tired of career politicians as I am? Are you tired of lobbyists making decisions down in Columbus in the State House rather than you and your family having your voice? That's what's important to me, is that you and your family have a voice in Columbus, and I'm running to be your state representative to do that. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about today in this show, that whether you are an independent, a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party member, that I think you'll find of interest. It's really important to me that we have two special guests here today that I admire quite a bit. They're both are former state representatives, patriots, citizen legislators who you elected to go to Columbus, who did wonderful jobs down there and came back to farming, to jobs, and were true citizen legislators. That's what I want to be, a person who's going to be down there listening to you and your concerns. And I'd like to introduce at this time former state representatives Darrell Opfer and Dwight Wise, who are going to be asking me a variety of questions today. And I hope you find this to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it. As you can see, this is a totally unscripted type of interview. I want people to know that when they talk to me as your state representative, I'm going to do everything I can to find the answers to your questions. And if I don't know, I'm going to go to people like my two guests to find those answers. I've taught school for 38 years, the majority in the Clyde Green Springs School District. I know what it's like to work with people, and I am excited to be running to be your state representative. This is going to be a show in which you find out more about me, Bill Young, the candidate, about the issues and how I feel about these. And I appreciate you and your family spending the time to watch this show today. Once again, I'm going to turn it over to our special guests, Darrell Opfer, Dwight Wise, and they're going to ask me a variety of questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer these, and hopefully you're going to like what you hear.
You and I both taught government at the high school level. And so since not all of the folks watching out there maybe remember their government class, could you explain what a state representative does, and more particularly why you decided to run for the office of state representative?
Very good, Darrell. Well, in addition to teaching government, I also taught some courses people might remember called 9th grade civics and 10th grade POD, Problems of Democracy. So I've had a variety of things as far as teaching about government, and this is my opportunity to join in, to be part of the process. As a teacher, I always enjoyed teaching this. And as far as answering what a state representative does, my first belief is that a state representative listens to the constituents. They're here, and they should be here, not just staying down in Columbus, but being here among the people in this area to listen to their concerns. And when it's time to take a vote down in Columbus, to vote on the will of the people, not just the person's decision. I think as a state representative, I know in the past, as a teacher, whenever we had something that was accomplished that was really worthwhile, I was very fortunate to be able to go to both of you and find that you could recognize my students for what they've done. I think that's an important part, is that a state representative is aware of what's going on in their district, and they give appropriate recognition for those people. As far as why I'm running, I just retired on July 1st. I wanted to go back for one more year to teach. I love teaching. I always consider myself a teacher. It's still getting strange to consider myself to be a politician. But the situation going on in Columbus right now deserved me running full-time for this office. As you know, public education has been under attack by this current administration, and that was one of the reasons that I jumped into this. And I feel I need to be a voice for public schools, for teachers, and most importantly for our students who have been really, programs have been cut. It's been very hard on our kids, and I'm a firm believer that, you know, our young people are the future. And as state representative, I want to work very hard to make sure that we have the best public school system around. And that's, again, a big reason I'm running for this.
You have pledged as a candidate to serve as a full-time state representative. Why do you think your constituents need a full-time representative? and what can you do for them that is now not currently being done?
I think with the taxpayers paying a salary of just a little bit over $60,000 for a state representative, I think that deserves full-time attention. I know as I've gone around campaigning, as I go door to door and I listen to stories of people that have lost their jobs, people that are hurting financially, I believe that that salary demands full-time attention. I think a legislator, a citizen legislator, should be the person who wants to talk to the constituents, find out their concerns, listen to them in all aspects. To me, that's a full-time job. I want to be one of those state representatives that is seen out and about, not a person sitting down in office. I realize as part of the job you need to be in Columbus. I know that. But you need to be here. I know that right now I have invited our current state representative to be at different things at our school. He hasn't been there. When we had our cancer cluster meeting in Clyde, Ohio, when it was first addressed by the state, over 700 people filling the Clyde High School auditorium, our state representative was not there. I know that you can't be everywhere at once as a state representative, but I'm going to do my best to do that because this is going to be my full-time job. As a retiree, I was a former small business owner, as I said, a teacher for 38 years, but I believe that that salary deserves full-time representation.
Besides meeting with constituents, there's another segment out there that needs help occasionally, and that's the school superintendents, the chambers of commerce, the those kinds of organizations, the city councils, etc. Do you have any plans as to how you are going to do a better job of representing them?
I feel very strongly, and I'll try to talk about each group a little bit, is that our school superintendents are in a really tough position right now. I saw yesterday that our Clyde Green Spring superintendent is going to retire in December. The Fostoria superintendent is going to retire in December. I think that they are under a really tough decisions right now as far as keeping their programs in the schools to where they should be to benefit kids. Unfortunately, the balanced budget by the Kasich administration took away tremendous amounts of money from our schools. And to be a superintendent now, you have to make decisions that hurt kids. That's not what anybody does. All superintendents started out as teachers. They started out for the idea that they're here to teach, to educate, and to help children. So I really want to meet with all of our local superintendents on a regular basis to see what I could do as state representative to help them out during these trying times. Again, their job is very, very hard. I appreciate everything that they do. I know they work extremely hard. I want to be there for them. As far as our local governments, once again, under this current administration down in Columbus, they have lost a tremendous amount of funding. They're having to make some tough decisions. I read recently that in some communities they're laying off school crossing guards. They're even talking about possibilities of not having snow removal. These are things, basic services, I mean, let alone fixing the roads, providing things. These are basic services that they've had for years. All of a sudden the money's not there due to the extreme budget cuts that have been instituted on them by the state of Ohio. I need to sit down with these community leaders, and we have to sit there and look and say, what can we do to make things better for you? As far as the Chamber of Commerce, again, I was a small business owner. I understand what small business is all about. My parents ran a grocery store. I grew up in the environment of small business. I know that there's, this is the backbone, really, of this area, the small businesses. I want to be open to them. I want to talk to them. I want to find out what can we do to provide jobs for the people of this community. That's going to be one of my top goals. Again, I can't stress enough, as I have talked to people in both Sandusky and Seneca County, there's a lot of hurting people. We tend to look at, our big cities as where all the problems are regarding homeless and hungry, and we're having some of those problems right here. And most people I've talked to don't want to sit at home. They want a job. They want a good paying job. You know I talked to some young guys the other day at the Clyde Fair, and they said, if we vote for you, are you going to get us a job? Well, that's a good, fair enough question. And, you know, I can't obviously promise jobs for everybody. Nobody could promise that. But I promise I would work hard to attract industry here and to try to get good paying jobs here. I think what happens is that we've become so complacent on saying, well, if we get dollar stores, we'll be happy. But working at a dollar store 2 days a week isn't going to pay the bills and support anybody's family. We need to bring our good paying jobs back here.
Bill, what do you think of the inequity in our school funding system that we have now? When you look at school districts and how their different millage rates is?
This is one of our biggest problems, Dwight. I mean, it isn't fair. The current system of funding of schools in Ohio is not fair, and this is what it's led to. This inequity isn't right, that some of our people are paying so much in the way of property taxes, other people are paying less, but yet we're supposed to provide the same education for everybody. This is what happened in 1997 when the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that the current way of funding schools was unconstitutional. They've ruled on it 4 more times since. I mean, and here we are 12 years later from the original ruling, and nothing has been changed. Everything relies on the property owner. And to have people in one district paying so much more than others doesn't seem right to me. I think we have to look at a comprehensive overhaul of our school funding mechanism. No one is taking this on. We've tried in different ways. I think Governor Strickland had the evidence-based model. I think he was going in the right direction. That was immediately scrapped by this current administration. I'm afraid when this governor comes out with his model in January, it's going to be bad news for all the property owners in this district and could make it even worse as far as the inequities that are going on now, Dwight.
Well, how about back when the Ohio legislature cut the state income tax 20% across the board? Was that a fair part of our tax structure?
I think it was something that needed to be done at the time. But again, when you start looking at cutting taxes, how are we going to, who's going to, are we going to look at the rich that they should pay more than everybody else? Are we going to say for the person who's barely getting by that you're going to have to pay the same amount as a person who's very wealthy? I think the tax structure in Ohio right now is something that needs to be looked at carefully, because we have a lot of people that just don't have the money to do that. Are we going to help them out by cutting the income tax? Sure, but what about the people that are wealthy? Is that something they're going to use to provide jobs?
One of the things that folks like us that are a little older understand or can remember is that at one time the people of the state of Ohio voted for a state income tax that they understood was going to be used specifically for education. But the problem is the politicians got in there and used reduction in taxes for their own political good. So the people will support public education as long as they know that the money that they are paying or that the lottery tickets that they are buying, that money is really going for education instead of being siphoned off for something else.
Right. I know we're struggling in the Clyde Green Springs district to pass a school levy. As I went door to door asking people to vote for our school levy, I heard the same excuses. I buy lottery tickets, I shouldn't have to pay anymore. I go to the casino, everything except for the fact that people don't want to take that responsibility because they thought that way. That's what that was for. Where now everybody's saying, I can't afford any more property taxes. That's why we have to look at a different mechanism, because it's unfair to our property owners to be asked over and over again that they're the ones who have to provide for the schools. My parents always told me that you always vote for a school levy. That's the future. The kids are our future, and that's the responsibility as you support public education. That's the way I was raised. And there was nothing about I buy lottery tickets so I could vote no. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. I think what happens is that the income tax was designed for that. That's what it was designed for. We need to look back and say, where are our priorities at? If our priorities are on our children, we're in trouble in this area. They should be.
And they voted to support the state income tax
Right.
in 1983, in November of '83, and when there was a major change made in that tax system, and the people voted for that state income tax, and I don't think, I think the equity is not there right now.
It isn't there, Dwight, and it goes back to what Darrell said. You know, the politicians took that and used it for the wrong reasons. And it's just like people voting for term limits. Overwhelmingly, people voted for term limits, but yet we have these career politicians who have tried everything they can by jumping back and forth or sitting out, coming back, and are not doing what the intent of the people was. As a state representative, you know, a 2-year term could run up to 8 years. Okay, well, I'm going to sit out while my buddy's state representative, then I'll come back in. Or I'm going to jump to the House, or I'm going to do that. That's not, to me, what the will of the people was. I mean, they wanted true citizen legislators like both of you who would go back to the farm, go back to a job after serving and doing a great job. I think the term limits needs to be enforced, and the way that it was written is the way the people really wanted to have it in the state of Ohio.
And one of the things that you didn't mention was legislators who go back, not as legislators, but as lobbyists to work for the companies that they represented before, and to seek special benefits for those companies.
And that's where, you know, we talk about these career politicians. They really are, even by they're going back as lobbyists to influence politics. And I think this is wrong. I mean, I know that we have people who are working so hard to try to privatize so many things in Ohio, and it's wrong. The Ohio Turnpike is the best example I could give you. I mean, we look at the mistakes that was made in Indiana and the Chicago Skyway with leasing these valuable assets, and we're still considering doing this in Ohio. I don't understand it. The Turnpike has been a reliable source of money for so many years. It's the best maintained road in the state of Ohio. And to turn it over for a one-term gain of money to a foreign country, I think is wrong. We've turned over way too many of our industries here to foreign countries. And now I've talked to business owners who've told me, you know, we're over there in China, but now all of a sudden these Chinese workers want more money. So now we may have to pull up stakes and maybe take our factory to India. That's wrong. They need to come back here is what they need to do. So this thing about, to me, what outsourcing is what I call it. To me, if you're going to try to lease our turnpike or sell our turnpike, that's outsourcing is in the worst way we could do that. I'm totally against that. I'll fight to make sure the turnpike stays for the citizens of Ohio.
Thank you.
Well, Bill, we have some excellent public education facilities in Ohio. Don't you think that they could, you know, put some ideas out to help you and to help the legislature to really help provide the adequate funding? Because it's you know, college loans, and our public schools have to lay off teachers, lay off people in the sector that help public schools keep going. Isn't there some way that we can reverse that whole situation?
We have to, Dwight. We are very fortunate in our district. We have 3 wonderful higher education. We have Heidelberg University, Tiffin University, and we have Terra, of course, which does a wonderful job right here in Fremont. We have tremendous kids graduating from these places that need jobs here. They need jobs here. The fact that so many of them are saddled with student loans that they're going to be paying back for years and years is wrong. And I look at the fact that our public schools, again, in both these counties, we have some of the highest rated schools in Ohio. But yet we're finding that they cannot pass a school levy. They've had to get rid of very important programs, which is wrong, and had to make these drastic cuts that no school board member wants to make, no superintendent wants to make those. But if you look at what's coming out of this current administration in Columbus, they have proven again that they're for charter schools, they're for vouchers, and if you read the governor's book, Stand for Something, page 176 through 178, he says public schools are beyond fixing in the state of Ohio. I don't believe that, not whatsoever. I taught 38 years in the public schools. We have great teachers, we have great students. We have to look at making this the best school system we could make, the best public school system. When we look at these putting for profit, I don't believe we should ever try to put a price on our kids. by making these for-profit schools. We just need to go ahead and have good ideas in the State House. That's what we need. That's what I want to bring. I want to bring fresh, new ideas. And I think that's why people voted for term limits.
Sure, and we have some excellent vocational schools that really work with our public schools and our higher universities, and it's really a big step forward, but we sure need to have the adequate funding to
we need the funding.
students.
It was always a pleasure for me to take my students through a tour of Vanguard Vocational School, and to see the work that they're doing out there is absolutely tremendous. I know again that we have these great facilities here. We need to utilize them. We need to utilize the students there, very importantly. One of the things as an educator, which I always hated to see, was when some of our best and brightest could not find jobs locally and had to relocate somewhere else. We need to get those good paying jobs here, keep those kids here. I think that's very important.
And one of the things I think that the governor doesn't seem to realize is that investment in education will be a major economic development tool to attract businesses. I think businesses are more interested in the quality of their workers and so on than they are in tax rates or payments from the state government or reduction in school taxes. There's school taxes they're supposed to be paying, etc.
Well, I know in Clyde, for example, our superintendent has told me personally that when businesses want to relocate in that area, the first thing they ask about is about the public schools. They want to know they're going to get a well-trained workforce that's going to be able to come and work for them. I know when I first came to this area that Whirlpool was going just great guns. And we had some of our top students who said, you know, Whirlpool was great. My parents made a good living there. I'm just going to go there. I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go right into Whirlpool. It's very hard to do that nowadays. We need to encourage our students to go on to higher education, to find these jobs. The tech jobs are going to be the future. And, you know, I look at the fact that, to me, I'm a strong believer in green energy. We're going to get a windmill farm outside of Clyde and Green Springs. We have to look at the future and look at what these jobs are going to provide for the people in this area.
Do you think that's possible, that we can adjust our tax structure to make it more fair and make more funds available to our public schools?
We're going to have to, Dwight. It can't stay the way it is right now. I mean, this status quo for 12 years where no one has wanted to take on school funding and really get it through to understand it. It breaks my heart when I go door to door and I talk to a senior citizen who says, I just have to vote no. I don't have the money. I cannot vote for the schools. I have seen people tear up in front of me and said, I just don't have the money. I love what the schools are doing. I love the kids. I've got grandkids that go into that school. They're getting a great education, but I cannot afford it. That's why the Supreme Court, and that was a Republican Supreme Court back in 1997, that said this isn't right. But yet the governor, the Republican legislature said, we're not going to follow this. They said right off the bat, we're not going to listen to this ruling. That has hurt us in Ohio for all these years. It needs to be changed.
And you know, Bill, it doesn't have to be done in 1 year. We can take a number of years to correct this whole tax structure, which it will need to do, but it's not an impossible undertaking.
Exactly. You know, that's it. I think we all too often think it has to be changed right now. This is what we're seeing, I think, with this governor. I think he shoots from the hip so often and wants things done just now, and that's not always a realistic way to do things. I think, as you mentioned, we could get this done. With bipartisan effort, we could get this done. That's one of the things that's going to be the real difference between my opponent and myself. I want to work with people on the other side of the aisle. I think that's really important to me, that I go down there and try to offer an alternative rather than just say we're just going to listen to one side. I think that's why we're in a lot of the problems we're in right now down the State House.
One of the things that Dwight and I noticed when we were state representatives is that many of our accomplishments were done because we were able to work together with members of the other party. Why do you think it is so difficult now for politicians to work together in the best interest of the constituents?
I think what's happened is that politics has become so radicalized that the moderates have kind of got left behind, which is sad, because, you know, we're seeing this all from Washington on down, where no one seems to want to sit down and talk and compromise. I mean, I taught for 38 years. You don't become a successful teacher without learning how to deal with students from all varieties of students. You learn as a teacher how to compromise and make your classroom work. When you do that same thing down at the State House, rather than just saying it's one way, no, it's not. It's for the best interest of our citizens, our constituents, to do this. I know that, to me, again, I keep going back to the people I talk to, because that's the best part of running for this office, is talking to our people here. And, you know, when people hear that this job pays a little over $60,000, or if you get a chairmanship like my opponent, over $70,000, that's a lot of money for a lot of people. And with all the people that are hurting, I have pledged from this campaign that as my salary as state legislature, when you elect me, I'm going to donate 10% of that to our area food banks. I think you have to look at what's really in your heart if you want to be state representative. Are you going down there to help everybody, or are you going down there for the wrong reasons? I'm running for the right reasons. I helped out children for 38 years. My home was an open door. Students came to the house, they knew they could come, if they had, my phone number was always available, people called me. I went and visited students who were in jail. They wanted to see their teacher, they wanted to see Mr. Young. I've been an advocate sitting down with a student and a policeman together trying to work things out. I wasn't just a teacher, I was a friend and an advocate. That's what I want to be to our constituents, a friend and an advocate to the people serving as your state representative.
And I think that's real important when you say serving as your state representative. It's not the politician end of it, it's a representative of the people that elect you, and I think that's real important.
I think so too, Dwight. I mean, the thing is, I want to be a state representative for everybody, not just a certain group. I mean, that's the thing, you know, in my years of education, you know, I mean, I dealt with students from all aspects of society. I also worked as a youth leader for WSOS Community Action for 13 years, teaching students job skills. Again, I'm one of those people that truly care about people. If I didn't, I wouldn't be running for this. I'd be sitting on a beach in Florida somewhere enjoying my retirement, but that's not me.
I just think it's great you're running as a full-time representative, because you've got so many constituents and other areas that you can help with, and I think that's great.
Thank you, Dwight. I believe, even salary notwithstanding, this is a full-time job. You do this just like the two of you did. You do it for the right reasons. You're there to represent your community. You're not there to be worrying about what the lobbyists have to say. I mean, you're there for what the people have to say. And people that know me know that one thing that they'll know about me, if I've dealt with their children or any aspect of society that I've dealt with, I'm not a yes person. I'm truly an independent person. I'm not a person who's going to go down there just with the party line. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things for everybody, and that's why I want to work with, quote, the other side. I want to come down there and say I could offer an alternative to what we've had for right now. I truly believe that people in this community are tired of career politicians. They respect what the two of you did, to go down and honorably serve your time and then go back to your professions. That's, to me, what it's all about, being a citizen legislature. I don't think there's any room for these career politicians. I really don't. I think they get down there and they totally lose touch with this community's all about. I never want to do that.
Well, that's certainly commendable, and your attitude towards your job as a teacher is probably one of the major reasons why you've been selected twice as the best teacher of the year in the state of Ohio.
Well, I've been very fortunate, Darrell. I've had wonderful students. You don't receive any recognition and any awards without having great students and great parents. I just cannot say enough about my years as teaching. I feel I was born to be a teacher, and to be asked to run for state representative is a tremendous honor. When you look at people that come to you and say, we'd like you to do this. You're the type of person we need down in Columbus. that made me feel really good. And I have worked extremely hard during this campaign. I look back at the fact of the places I've been to, the people I've met, that's what keeps you going. That's the things that really puts that eye on the prize, that I really want to win this election. And the reason I want to win it is I want to be like you guys, state representatives that listen to the people and want to do the best job they can for this area we live in.
Well, we sure wish you the best regards, the best, you're the best candidate by far, and I think with your teaching experience and working with people, Bill, is really a good plus.
Well, thank you, Dwight. I want to again say to our viewers, thank you for your time. Again, I'm reaching out to everybody, whether you're an independent, a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, whatever your political affiliation is. My parents always taught me, vote for the best person. They, you know, I was just so fortunate to be brought up in a household where we talked about politics at the dinner table. Politics was a big part of our lives. But yet, as small business owners, they worked extremely hard, and they knew that there's good people on all sides of all political beliefs. And that's what I want to get across to everybody, that I'm open to anything that you folks come to me about, and I want to listen to you. I want to hear your concerns. I'm not just going to say, well, I'm not going to listen to you because you're from this group or from that group. I want to listen to everybody.
Why was it such a big event last year when the citizens of Ohio voted in issue 2 to oppose Senate Bill 5?
Well, I look at Senate Bill 5, which was such an unfair attack on our hardworking policemen, firemen, our nurses, our teachers. This was strictly political payback from a governor who wanted to make sure that they were punished for not supporting him. And this is wrong. This is not what politics is all about. I worked very hard on the front lines to make sure that we defeated this attack, unfair attack on our public employees. I have been so proud to be endorsed by so many groups this year, but when I received the backing of the Fraternal Order of Police, that made me very proud because they know that I worked hard for them, just like they do for all of our citizens. I respect people. And this to me was just a very ill-fated attempt by a governor and a Republican legislator to punish people. They said, you know, well, collective bargaining has no place. Collective bargaining does have a place. I remember teaching before collective bargaining was put into place. And I saw teachers who were let go for the wrong reasons. They, for example, maybe a school board member's son didn't start as quarterback. Boom, that teacher was gone. I was at a school district where, believe it or not, a teacher was seen drinking a beer in a restaurant. School board member didn't like this teacher. Boom, that teacher was gone. You need collective bargaining, you need protections. To take those away, I think are absolutely terrible. We're looking at the same thing right now, Darrell, with this threat of putting right-to-work legislation on the ballot. It's the same thing all over again. Again, I am so proud of my many endorsements from my union brothers and sisters. I was a union president and vice president. I'm for the working people. As I go around and talk to people, they know that. They know I've been there. And to try to enforce right to work, where they know in all the states where it's been put, is really right to work for less, has caused tremendous economic hardship on our hardworking middle-class families. I'm going to fight all efforts against that. I think it's wrong. I think we sent the governor and the Republican legislator a message with Senate Bill 5. I think next year, with their threats to put right-to-work legislation on the ballot, we're going to send them the same message, because we're going to get that message out there that our hardworking men and women deserve a decent wage, they deserve decent insurance, and their families, you know, should benefit from all the hard work they put in, not be penalized.
And also, it's important that the middle class, the working families have more to spend, because they're much more likely to help create jobs than the so-called trickle-down theory that we've had for the last 30 years. And I haven't found anybody yet that's been trickled on by this so-called economic plan.
Neither have I, Darrell. And that's a sad fact about all this that we're looking at right now in the state of Ohio. If people don't have jobs, if they don't have a good enough wage, they can't purchase the goods that we make here. We have really good workers, well-trained workforce right here in this area. I have been, like I said, just honored to be in our union halls, talking to these hard-working men and women. And they're going out every day. They're working extremely hard, and to actually try to put in legislation that would hurt them, prevent purchasing power, as you mentioned. I mean, these are the people that are buying the new pickup trucks. These are the people who are going around buying, you know, home improvement.
They're not unemployed.
Yeah, exactly. The ones who are working are the ones who are supporting this economy. We have to be very careful right now in the state of Ohio, because we have taken away our $12 billion a year liquor profits and put them into this new creation called Jobs Ohio, promoted by this governor, which supposedly has created thousands of jobs. I haven't seen them here. I'd like to know where the proof is of all these jobs that have been created. And this is something that I'm going to go down to Columbus, your state representative, and find out why we have put a state agency called Jobs Ohio, which is really not a state agency, with no oversight whatsoever, not enforceable by any ethics laws or inspector general or anybody, and they're going to come out and take all this money and provide all these jobs. Well, I think like most Ohioans, we want to know where these jobs are at. We're not seeing them here in this area.
Right. Last year, the people voted no on State Issue 2. This year we have another State Issue 2 that was put on the ballot by referendum by petition carriers. And I know both you and I carried some of those petitions. It is on the ballot as State Issue 2. Would you explain what State Issue 2 does and what a yes and a no vote means?
Well, I'm hoping everybody votes yes this time around on State Issue 2, because we need a fair way of redistricting. That's what this does. It takes it out of the hands of strictly the party in power, but puts it in a bipartisan committee, a fair bipartisan committee that would look at a way of redistricting so it is fair to everybody. You know more than I do from your district that with this redistricting that the Republicans put in this time, it was to guarantee that they would control the State House. They're looking for a supermajority. That's what this redistricting was all about. And the perfect example I could give is with Ottawa County. As we know, in the 81st District, we had Harris and Salem Townships. So we had Oak Harbor and Elmore, for example, that were part of our 81st. Now, with the redistricting, I've lost those two. And there are a tremendous amount of good folks in those two places that I'd be honored to represent. Now, they're going to get a Democratic state representative with Chris Redfern. He's going to be elected. There's no doubt about it. And I'm very happy for those folks. But my wife, being an Ottawa County native, has 500 relatives living in Harris and Salem Townships. I was not one bit surprised to find out in this redistricting that I would not have a chance to represent those voters. We lost in Seneca County, the village of New Regal, and Loudon North and South. Again, a lot of really good folks I would have been honored to represent. So, again, I don't understand redistricting except for the fact that the party in power is saying we're going to make it so that it benefits our candidates. Now, the good news is for me of redistricting is that Green Springs could finally vote, the entire village could vote for me. Rural Clyde, rural Bellevue. That's a good change. But when I saw the original map that was put up and they had this district as including Crawford County, I had a strong feeling that wasn't going to stay the same. But it's decided by the party in power. That's wrong. Issue 2 gives a bipartisan commission designed, to make it fair for everybody. the Republicans will say, well, when the Democrats did it, they did it this way, you know, and it's back and forth, everybody blaming one another. Why can't we all work together to make it fair?
And as I recall from my teaching days, that's called gerrymandering. Gerrymandering, as we both know, is a very old practice that was done back in, I believe, like 1812 by an Elbridge Gerry, who was, I believe, governor of the state of Massachusetts, who drew the district lines in such a way that a newspaper editor looked at them and said, well, this isn't a district, this looks like a salamander. And so the two names were put together, and that's why we call it gerrymandering. The district that Marcy Kaptur will be representing is extremely long, and in some cases it's only several hundred feet or yards wide, and so it is impossible for her to travel from one end of the district to the other, you know, and staying in the same district. So it and Sandusky and Seneca County also have a very strange congressional district that runs all the way down to, I believe it's Champaign County. And so we need to have more compact districts that people recognize where they live and who represents them.
And that's what we need to get away from. I mean, I think this is the problem that we're facing right now, and this is why so many people I've talked to are turned off by politics. It's not just the ads on TV, it's not just the robocalls, it's the whole process of this party and that party all wanting to get that edge. They don't want to have the bipartisan things to work together. Again, as we look at our history of our country, both of us, Darrell, being former teachers, and it's still hard for me to say former teacher, trust me, okay, is that we look back in history, when did great things happen? When there was compromise, when people worked together. That's when great things happened. I know when I was in, you know, in 7th grade, and I took the Ohio history course, it was my honor to teach for many years. We had a new governor in Ohio named Jim Rhodes. And I remember he slept in the barns at the state fair. And I thought, wow, this guy must really love this state. And you know, we don't agree with everything Jim Rhodes did, but I think no one could argue he did love the state of Ohio. I love this area that I live in. I mean, I've been so fortunate to be part of this area. And I want to be a state representative that, again, represents every person, not just this particular group, but every person. And that's really important to me.
I know the campaign Ohio First is using the slogan that citizens should select their representatives, not the representatives select the citizens in the district that they want to represent. So I think it's very important that people understand that a yes vote on State Issue 2 will mean that they will select the representatives instead of vice versa.
And I think that's why it's so important, Darrell. You know, I mean, I think that's a very good way to phrase it. You know, this 88th district still involves two of the biggest counties area-wise in the state of Ohio. As I travel from Bellevue to Fostoria, Attica to Woodville, I mean, I'm meeting such incredible people. This has been one of the things, as a teacher for 38 years, I know Clyde and I know Green Springs, but I've got a chance now to meet people from all over these two places and to find out, guess what, they have the same concerns as the people in Clyde and Green Springs do. We're all on the same boat together, and that's what I want to do, is be a state representative, again, who'll listen to everybody.
And we will continue to look forward to hopefully your election as state representative and the great things that you're going to be able to do for the district and for the citizens of Ohio.
Well, folks, I have been very honored today to have Darrell Opfer and Dwight Wise as my guests. I look up to both of these gentlemen tremendously because as state representatives, they truly went down there for the right reasons. Again, I just want people that don't know me to, if you go and ask any of my students, that's the best way to do this, and find out that I'm not doing this for any reason except to help you. That's why I'm doing this. Again, I could sit on the sidelines. I can't do that. That's not my personality. As a teacher, as Darrell mentioned, I was very fortunate to be Ohio Social Studies Teacher of the Year, 3-time nominee for Ohio Teacher of the Year, Northwest Ohio Teacher of the Year. I received many awards during my teaching career. Again, wonderful students, wonderful parents, but a lot of hard work on my end. I've been a single income teacher. I've never had a summer off. I've always held some variety of job. I know what it's like to work. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. That's why I could emphasize with so many people that live in this district. I'm asking once again that you vote for the person, not for the party. I'm asking once again that you really sit down and decide, what do I want out of a state representative? Do I want a career politician? Do I want someone who'll bring a fresh new voice down to Columbus? Please, if you get a chance, look on my website, www.electbillyoung, or my Facebook page, Elect Bill Young. We have literature as we're going around door to door. If you'd like a campaign sign, if you'd stop down our Democratic office on East State Street, I'll get you one. I'll come and put it in your yard directly as I talk to you. You'll find out I'm the type of person who's going to be honest and direct with you, and I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote, and I thank you so much for your time that you and your family spent watching this today. And if there's anything I did not address, once again, I have information on my website, and I hope on November 6th I could count on your vote. Thank you very much. I'm Bill Young, and I approve this message.